This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, and here today, my co-host Harris Faulkner, Fox News chief legal correspondent and anchor of Fox News at Night, Shannon Bream, Fox News contributor and syndicated radio host Leslie Marshall, and in the center virtual seat, joining us again, Fox Nation host, retired USMC bomb tech and Fox News contributor Joey Jones. President Biden has been in office for less than 6 months, and in that time, the number of illegal migrant crossings coming over the southern border has skyrocketed. Gun violence is also way up, as are prices on just about everything. And voters have taken notice. Check out these new Fox polls, which show most of those surveyed disapprove rather than approve of the way the president has handled all of that. Biden is down 10 points since June on his handling of the economy, as he takes the biggest hit on immigration and crime. It is a big problem, and it's 79% who blame the economic policies, of the federal government. So people are tying the prices at the pump to economic policies. They're understanding why this is happening. And Leslie, when you move to crime, his approval rating is in the 30% range on the issue of crime. Should he have waited so long, 6 months into his presidency, to give an address on crime?
Well, considering the needle hasn't moved for President Biden either up or down in 7 months, and I think we wouldn't even be talking about this except for the fact that it has now moved for the first time in 7 months. If you look at the numbers and you look at how much of a drop there is, these are not significant drops. Despite the erosion, he's still very popular. In this very Fox News poll that we're talking about, more than half of American families do feel financially comfortable. And it is COVID, not 79%, more than 80%, upwards of 85%, 86% that blame the pandemic, not the president, not even Congress and our elected officials for this. And then when we look at certain sectors of the economy, let's look at retail, for example. A Walmart, 500,000 hires since March. Dollar Store, 20,000 hires. More stores hiring and more stores being opened. And then when you have infrastructure hopefully going to go all the way to the finish line, I do think that some of these polls are going to be looked at in a few weeks, if not next month, as outliers.
You know, Leslie, you and I have on many times, TV, radio, gone back and forth, just trying to get to the realities of the situation, how it is for people on the ground. And that's where I want to go with you now. Biden has to take a look at the situation and see that some of his people are not succeeding. And when you have calls for one of them to be impeached, and when you have Mayorkas going to the border today, and there's going to be pressure put on him, not even by all Republicans, Representative Cuellar, Henry Cuellar, at the border to talk with Mayorkas today. He'll speak before Mayorkas does. Democrat, big voice in the House. The issue is, can you turn off the spigot long enough to let us catch up? Can you put Title 42 back in place long enough for us not to be so exposed to more COVID coming across the border? What do you say?
Well, first, the first images and outrage were by Representative Cuellar. I'm glad that you brought him up, and he is a Democrat. So to say Democrats don't care is not true, and it's disingenuous.
No one is saying that.
Secondly, I've always said that Vice President Kamala Harris should have been ages ago at the border. But we also have to look at distinguishing. I was watching a very interesting video by Texas County Judge Cortez, in which he says, we have in the Rio Grande, especially in Texas, a misunderstanding and a misconception of the labeling of individuals. For example, if you are seeking asylum and you come here with children under the age of 6 and you are given a court date, you are then technically here legally until that court date and until the United States courts.
Should they be testing those people at the border before we let them in?
We also have to look at what's happened in northern Mexico, in Tamaulipas. Tamaulipas says no more children under 6 years of age. We don't have the facilities to care for them. That has increased the numbers that we have at the border. These are not excuses. These are realities. To Joey's point, I love you, but this is not an Obama, Trump, or Biden problem. This is an American problem that's been going on for
Leslie,
17 years.
I asked you an important question.
The semantics won't fix it.
And I don't know if her IFB is off.
Outrage is growing after a Rush tribute for fallen Chicago police officer Ella French. Her colleagues lining the streets outside the medical examiner's office to give her a final send-off after she was shot and killed during a routine traffic stop. But according to the Chicago Sun-Times, the department's second-in-command, Eric Carter, pushed to cut short that sacred tradition and demanded that her body be taken inside immediately instead of waiting for the ritual honor guard to escort her remarks.
We're not going to be waiting on the bagpipes. Go ahead and get the vehicle inside. Take it all the way inside. Do not stop.
Escort her remains, I should say. Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot has defended Carter's move, saying new COVID rules were the reason behind it.
Restrictions at the new corner has put in place, that wouldn't have been fair to them, and they may have lost an important window of time. So a call was made under those circumstances to focus on the family. Eric Carter made the right call. I support what he did.
Wow. The police and Mayor Lightfoot have had a strained relationship for some time now. And when she visited French's partner in the hospital, more than 24 officers there turned their backs on her. The former superintendent of Chicago says it's not just in his city, but police across the country just aren't getting enough support. Leslie, the head of the Minneapolis Democrat Party, his name's Devin Hogan, has said that burning down police buildings is, quote, an act of pure righteousness. Burning of police buildings, an act of pure righteousness, and he's doubling down on that rhetoric. Your party needs to get in line here, because defund that kind of rhetoric is just not going to work in the midterms. What do you have to say to Devin?
I say it's a disgusting remark. It's not true. It's just as disgusting as Republicans calling January 6th tourism. And I think it's terrible. I think we need to look at truth. I do want to speak to the officer's death. My daughter's name is Ella, and this officer's name was Ella. And as somebody, all of us here have buried a loved one. And when you lose someone, whether in the line of duty or not, you want them to have their day. And that day, those bagpipes are for the family more so than that other person who's hopefully gone on to be with the angels. But I do have to say, in defense of the mayor, she couldn't win on this one. I think we could all agree. Because if she didn't support what the second in command of the police did, the police are going to continue to turn their backs and say that she didn't have their backs, and his call on that. No. And if she went on, either way, she would be looked at as spitting in the face.
You don't lose by supporting a fallen police
officer. Whether it's the officer that was laid to rest or the officer who made that call.
Former Republican California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger ranting against Americans who refuse to wear masks or follow health guidance in the name of personal freedom. Look, Leslie, our nation obviously divided. Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously a former governor of a huge state. Is what he said helpful?
Harris, I live in the state he was the former governor of. I didn't want him to be governor and didn't listen to a word he said then, and I certainly don't listen to him now. He's not a member of my party. He doesn't speak for my party. He left this state worse than it was, as he stated, and I won't repeat lips or otherwise. Look, what sets the United States apart from other nations is the freedom that we have. However, I would agree with coming together, because the freedoms of healthcare workers are being infringed upon right now. The freedom of having extra beds in the ICU, extra space in the ER, the freedom for all of us to respect each other. I have had my children and I mocked for wearing masks. Nobody should be mocking each other for wearing them or not. We should be, as a nation, not making this political and looking at this as left or right or blue or red, but looking at this as we are Americans, and how do we get this and every variant of this in our rearview mirror so we can get back to the life we knew before this pandemic.
After more than a year of working from home, Google is letting thousands of employees stay home for good. But there's one catch. They might have to take a pay cut, something many of those employees have actually agreed to do. Leslie, we all know on this panel that moms have been on the sidelines of the jobs recovery as people are returning to work. It's moms aged 25 to 54 who've been the least likely to return to work. Black and Latina women and mothers affected most. I think it makes sense to give flexibility to let mothers stay at home who, if their kids are not in school, have to be caretakers, but not with a pay cut. What are your thoughts?
Well, being that I'm working from home right now, and I hope the bosses are watching, please don't cut my pay, okay? I just want to be clear on that. Look, the studies show it's actually advantageous for corporations to have employees work from home. Almost 30% of the workforce continues to work from home this year of 2021. 47% increase in productivity, and that's the low end, Kaylee. In addition to that, it's cost saving for corporations. They can downsize their headquarters or wherever they had employees come into. That's lower mortgage, rent, or lease. In addition, they don't have to pay perhaps expense accounts like or gas or mileage or transportation or travel costs. So it's actually a win-win, because if you work from home, for some of us, obviously I can't say, well, I'm going to go on 3 o'clock in the morning and co-host Outnumbered. But for a lot of people, they find that they're working an extra day, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, getting up earlier before they have to get the kids off to school and make breakfast to get the work done. So I think it's a win-win, and I don't think anybody, Google or anyone else, should penalize, especially those working moms like us, from working from home, especially when it's financially helpful to the corporation.
Leslie.
Is wine a food group? Wine, but no, for food, mac and cheese.
It is now.
Gotta have that, you know, home cooking mac and cheese feel. That would be my food with the wine.
Wow.